EVIE Pig was the biggest surprise Peppa Pig fans have ever had, but have you ever stopped to think that she might very well have been adopted? Fake pregnancy. The reason everyone believes EVIE is Mummy Pig's biological daughter is connected to everything that happened before the baby's birth. Several episodes were released in which Mummy Pig was pregnant, with a belly much bigger than normal. We followed Peppa's mom's entire pregnancy all the way to EVIE's birth. But here's the thing, there are signs that Mummy Pig's pregnancy was a lie, which would mean that she and Daddy Pig lied to Peppa, George, and even to us. All you have to do is start paying attention to the details. If Mummy Pig was really pregnant, why did she only start appearing with a big belly when she announced her pregnancy on a news program? What guarantees that that huge belly wasn't fake? What guarantees that the medical exams she showed weren't fake as well, just to fool us? If Mummy Pig were truly pregnant, we should have noticed it in earlier episodes of the show. After all, a belly doesn't grow overnight. It's a process that happens gradually. Not to mention that the pregnancy was announced in February and EVIE was born in May, just 3 months later. Even if Mummy Pig wasn't at the very beginning of the pregnancy in February, she would have needed to be at least 6 months pregnant at that point for EVIE to be born at 9 months, which is what normally happens. In other words, everything points to the idea that Mummy Pig's pregnancy was a lie and that EVIE was adopted. But why would Peppa's parents fake a pregnancy? Don't worry, because we're about to reveal that and much more. It's time to have fun with us in another Cinewave. Dottie's daughter. Before Mummy Pig's pregnancy announcement, something else very interesting happened in Peppa Pig. Aunt Dottie appeared for the first time after many years of being a mystery, since she had only been mentioned up until then. The episode featuring Dottie's appearance was released in November 2024, while Mummy Pig's pregnancy announcement happened in February 2025, a gap of just a few months. Dottie lives in another country and went years without visiting her homeland or her family. So why did she show up so suddenly, without even warning her own sister, Mummy Pig? The answer might be that she is EVIE's real mother. Around that time, Dottie would have just found out she was pregnant, but she probably didn't want to be a mother. That's why she visited the Pig family and secretly asked Mummy Pig to adopt her daughter when she was born. The timeline is starting to line up, right? Maybe you're wondering, but why put on this whole act of pretending to be pregnant? Wouldn't just adopting EVIE be enough? That question makes sense, but when we think more carefully about Dottie's situation, we can see that she might have personal issues with her family. After all, what other reason would she have for staying away for so long? It's possible that some of Peppa's relatives talk badly about her aunt behind her back. If everyone knew that Dottie had a daughter and gave her to her own sister, it's likely that some members of the Pig family would start gossiping about her behind her back, calling her lazy, irresponsible, and things like that. To prevent her sister from becoming the target of even more gossip, Mummy Pig pretended she was pregnant with EVIE before adopting her. That way, no one discovered that EVIE is Dottie's daughter. Of course, except for us. During the time of Mummy Pig's fake pregnancy, the one who was actually pregnant was Dottie. No one noticed simply because she lives in another country, and therefore didn't appear on the show during the pregnancy. See how everything fits perfectly for this theory to make sense?
Miss Rabbit. There are also other possibilities for how this could have happened. Maybe with Mummy Pig not even knowing that EVIE isn't her biological daughter. In that case, the pregnancy would have been real, but Peppa's little sister would have been replaced by another baby after being born. After all, we know someone very well who could have made that swap. Miss Rabbit. Miss Rabbit seems like a nice character, but the theory that she is an evil entity who controls the world of Peppa Pig is well known. The rabbit has so many jobs that it would be impossible to work all of them in a single day, which is why many people believe she can manipulate time. And that's where things get interesting. Miss Rabbit's time manipulation would also explain how Mummy Pig suddenly appeared with a huge belly and how EVIE took so little time to be born. If Mummy Pig really did get pregnant, Miss Rabbit is the only one who can make that make any sense. Not to mention that she would have reasons to want EVIE to be born, since the evil Miss Rabbit theory says that she turns Peppa's life into a TV series. And we all know that EVIE's birth greatly boosted the show's popularity, so Miss Rabbit may have accelerated Mummy Pig's pregnancy with her time manipulation precisely to increase the show's hype more quickly. But if that's the case, why would she go through all that trouble just to replace the real EVIE with another baby? The answer is control. Miss Rabbit is likely planning for EVIE to become the new main character when she grows up, but she wants to raise her from a young age to obey her, not look for answers, and never break character, creating a protagonist much better than Peppa. That's why Miss Rabbit would have replaced the original EVIE and put another similar child in her place, so she could raise the real EVIE while she is still
still a baby. When the right moment comes, Miss Rabbit will switch the two again, probably when Evie starts talking. When that happens, Peppa can be sure that her days as the main character will be numbered. Which of these theories do you think makes the most sense? Comment below with #EVIE along with your opinion, because we're curious. Tragedy. There is a much sadder theory, and we hope it isn't real, but one that could very well be true. A very dark truth that the cartoon absolutely does not want us to discover. What if Mummy Pig really did have an abnormal pregnancy? One that started suddenly and ended very quickly, without Miss Rabbit having done anything at all. It's rare, but there are cases in which a pregnancy happens in a way that's different from normal. The problem is that this usually puts the baby's life at risk, which means the real Evie may have died during childbirth. Yes, that idea is completely macabre, but it makes a lot of sense when we really stop and think about it. In that case, the Evie we see on the show was adopted to replace the original one. She could have been found in an orphanage or even be Dottie's daughter, as we theorized earlier. But in that scenario, Dottie would have given her to her sister with the intention of helping her overcome the loss she had just suffered. No matter where the baby came from, it's very sad to think that the pregnancy we followed for several episodes may have ended in a tragedy that Mummy Pig and Daddy Pig pretend never happened. Peppa's clone. Some people see Evie as the new Peppa, but few realize that this might actually be true, because there is a chance that Evie is literally a clone of Peppa. Cloning might sound absurd and extremely futuristic, but the truth is that clones have existed in the animal world for many years. And guess what? Pigs are among the animals scientists commonly clone in their research. The idea that Evie is a clone becomes even less absurd when we remember that the science in the world of Peppa Pig is pretty exaggerated, with Grandpa Rabbit having been able to build a rocket that successfully took the characters all the way to the moon. For all we know, it was Grandpa Rabbit himself who was responsible for cloning Peppa. Another possible candidate is Edmund Elephant, who is the same age as George but has superhuman intelligence. We'll find out whether Evie is Peppa's clone when she grows up. If the girl ends up looking identical to her older sister, we should definitely keep our eyes wide open. Evie's clone. Of course, Evie being a clone doesn't mean she necessarily has to be Peppa's clone. In fact, she could even be a clone of herself, which fits perfectly with that idea that the real Evie may have died during childbirth. If the little girl really did suffer such a cruel fate, it makes sense that Mummy Pig would have decided to clone her. I mean, cloning your own deceased child isn't exactly the healthiest thing in the world, but a grieving mother can do all kinds of extreme things when she can't cope with the loss. There's also a chance that Evie is the clone of a daughter Dottie has that we don't even know exists, since we know nothing about her personal life. That daughter wouldn't need to be the same age as Evie. She could be Peppa's age or even older, but instead of adopting Dottie's daughter or cloning her own child, Mummy Pig would have asked Dottie to clone her daughter and hand the clone over to her. If you got lost in the middle of all these clones, we won't judge you. It's really hard to keep track. The cloning storyline also makes sense when combined with that theory about Miss Rabbit having replaced Evie. After all, if Miss Rabbit plans to switch the two Evies back again in the future, then both babies need to be identical. That being the case, replacing the baby with her own clone would have been the smartest choice.
Want to keep having fun with us? Then subscribe and turn on the notification bell.
George's clone. The last person we would ever imagine being placed into a cloning theory is George, but it actually makes sense that Evie could be his clone. In fact, this might make even more sense than her being a clone of Peppa, of herself, or of one of Dottie's daughters. Even though Evie is a girl, she has more similarities to George than to Peppa. One of the few defining traits the baby has is her love for rubber duckies, being completely obsessed with them. That strongly mirrors George's obsession with dinosaurs. Peppa, for example, has her teddy bear Teddy as a stuffed toy, but she isn't obsessed with bears in general, while George clearly loves dinosaurs, and Evie loves ducks. Because of that, it's very possible that she is a clone of her brother, a female version of George. Replaced later. When we think about the idea that the original Evie may have been replaced, it's easy to assume that this happened at the hospital, but there is a clue suggesting that the baby only went through the replacement after appearing in a few episodes of the show. If that's the case, it's very likely that Evie was swapped starting in the episode where Peppa and George cover the family's new house with bubble wrap. In that story, they were making as many modifications to the house as possible to keep Evie as safe as they could. A very strange and desperate attitude, as if the two of them were paranoid. Some fans noticed that the way Peppa and George behaved in that episode was odd, but what if we told you that they may have been so worried about Evie's safety because they had seen Miss Rabbit breaking into her room the night before? They probably thought it was just a nightmare, but what they saw was real. In fact, the truth was even worse. Miss Rabbit not only invaded Evie's room, but also replaced her with her clone on that very same day. That is, of course, if this theory is real. But let's be honest, it really does seem like there's something very wrong with Evie. The next step is right in front of you. 2 fun-filled videos waiting for your click. Thanks, and see you soon.